Hello, everybody. This is Jim Ransom with another weekend episode of Morning Jim Poetry. Who would have who would have believed that? It is the Easter weekend, and I'm not going to read any Easter poetry because the best of that is in both the Bible and the Anglican Book of Common Prayer that I'm familiar with. This past week, I made a trip to the largest Barnes & Noble bookstore I have ever seen, located in one of the Pittsburgh suburbs, which seem to be scattered all over the map of western Pennsylvania. Books in this Barnes & Noble bookstore are spread over acres of book space. I've never seen such a big bookstore. And they have a large poetry department right up my alley. I came away with several new volumes, 4 to be exact, to add to my already sizable collection of poetry books. Great fun. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I'm going to start out with a poem from a new collection by Billy Collins, not actually too new, but it's one that I don't have. It's called Aimless Love by Billy Collins. Don't you just love that dog on the little kitty scooter? I thought that was great. But in this book, he's got, of course, a number of his previous books combined into this, but in the back of the book, there's a section of new poems that haven't been published in any of his previous books before. And I was taken by the one from the very first page of this new poem section. It's called The Sandhill Cranes of Nebraska. Too bad you weren't here 6 months ago, was a lament I heard on my visit to Nebraska. You could have seen the astonishing spectacle of the sandhill cranes, thousands of them feeding and even dancing on the shores of the Platte River. There was no point in pointing out the impossibility of my being there then, because I happened to be somewhere else. So I nodded and put on a look of mild disappointment, if only to be part of the commiseration. It was the same look I remember wearing about 6 months ago in Georgia when I was told that I had just missed the spectacular annual outburst of azaleas, brilliant against the green backdrop of spring. And the same in Vermont 6 months before, that when I arrived shortly after the magnificent foliage had gloriously peaked, Mother Nature, as she is called, having touched the hills with her many-colored brush. A phenomenon that occurs, like the others, around the same time every year when I am apparently off in another state, stuck in a motel lobby. And I have the local paper and a styrofoam cup of coffee, busily missing God knows what. I love that poem. I think it's one that we can almost all connect with in some way or another, because I know I've been many places when I ought to have had been someplace else. Anyway, that's life, and that's the nature of humanity on this earth. We all know this is almost constantly true. All right, let's switch over and look at the poetry of Joy Harjo. Many of you have heard of Joy Harjo. She has been, I don't think she is currently, but has recently been Poet Laureate of the United States and has published, I think, about 8 different books of poetry. But they all really have a common theme, and they're based on the fact that Joy Harjo is a Muskogee Indian. And her poetry is all about being Indian. She lives in Oklahoma after her ancestors were driven out of their ancestral homes in the southeast of the United States. And then she settled in Oklahoma, where the Muskogee Indians settled there on land nobody wanted. It's ironic, isn't it, that years later they often became wealthy due to oil discovered on their land, which now belonged to them in Oklahoma. And I don't know about the Muskogee, but many of the Indian tribes down there have Indian casinos, which are not subject to any of the local laws of Oklahoma, and which can stay open 24 hours a day if they like, through which the white man paid many times over for the Trail of Tears on the way to Oklahoma. So maybe we're quits on that unpleasant episode of history. I don't think anybody would be in favor today of driving a well-settled portion of the population to another part of the country because of their differences from the majority. But that's what happened, and it's not a good memory. Let's read a poem from Joy Harjo. And this poem is called Falling from the Night Sky, a Song. I was a star falling from the night sky. I needed you to catch me. I was a rainbow lifting from a dark cloud. I needed you to see me. You keep your eyes to the ground. Walk that line she had to you. That path of patient expectation keeps you true to her undoing. My heart wore flowers and a red dress. The first time we kissed, you smelled of happiness and moonlight. We drove the night to tenderness. When you're here, we are the sun and the moon, in the land where the promises come true. When you're here, we share imagination, no explanations. It's just me and you. You keep your eyes to the ground, walk that line she had to you. The path of patient expectation keeps you true to her undoing. I am a star falling from the night sky. I need you to catch me. I'm a rainbow lifting from a dark cloud. I need you to see me. Our knowledge is based on the origin stories of land, genealogy, and ancestors. If you know the branches of the tree of relationship between tribal clans and family members, then you know who you are, said the panther to its cubs. Now that's an interesting poem, don't you think? It starts out as a song, and I tried to give it a rhythm, like a song, but then when we got to the last stanza, which is really not so much poetry as prose, we get an explanation. Our knowledge is based on the origin stories of land, genealogy, and ancestors. This is the whole theory behind most of the poetry of Joy Harjo. And I think if you were to buy this book, An American Sunrise, by Joy Harjo, you would see what I'm talking about after you've read a few of these poems. Here's one on the very next page called For Earth's Grandsons. Stand tall, no matter your height, how dark your skin, your spirit is all colors within. You are made of the finest woven light. From the iridescent love that formed your mothers, fathers, your grandparents, all the way back on the spiral road. There is no end to this love. It has formed your bodies, feeds your bright spirits, and no matter what happens in these times of breaking, no matter dictators, the heartless, and liars, no matter, you are born of those who kept ceremonial embers burning in their hands, all through the miles of relentless exile, those who sang the path through massacre, all the way to sunrise. You will make it through. You can see the same theme as in the previous one. A strong spirit of togetherness between the ancestors and the present generations of the Indian warriors and the Indian squaws is here. And you are its keeper, the ceremonial embers burning in our hands, if we're in that group, all through the miles of relentless exile, and so forth. Joy Harjo has walked the path of reminding us of the treatment of the Indians 2 centuries ago, and she isn't going to let us forget it. But that's okay. I think we have to understand her thoughts and her motivations when we read her poetry. Now, let's change our pace a bit and turn back to Billy Collins, who has also recently published another bestseller in 2022 called Musical Tables. You get that picture of the cow ensconced on a settee. I think that's amazing. And now I want to tell you that this entire collection is of poems of 3 to 5 lines. Mostly they are aphorisms, or are trying to be aphorisms. And I'm going to wander through the pages here, back and forth, and give you a sense of this book. You can see one of the longer poems right there, which I'm going to read, is called A Memory. It came back to me not in the way a thing might be returned to its rightful owner, but like dance music, traveling in the dark from one end of the lake to the other. And then here's another one. It has a total of 8 lines, just like the previous one. It's called Poetry. As if it were not hard enough, whenever my pencil moves along the page, the pink eraser end points up, a little finger wagging, reminding me of our appointment. That's typical Billy Collins humor there. And then here's one called Italian Palindrome. And you may know what a palindrome is. It's a verse which sort of ends up like it starts. And here it is. A man, a plan, a canal, canaletto. I like that. Avoidance is the next and last poem from this book. When I saw him walking toward me in the city, I stopped and looked in the window of a store that had closed. Turned out it was only someone who looked like him. But all the way home, I wondered where in the world he could possibly be. This is the kind of humor that Billy Collins is very, very good at, and what makes him what some have said or called America's favorite poet. And then the cover on the book, A Cow on a Settee. That's a message, I think. That's it today. Have a happy Easter. I'll be back next week with more Morning Jim poems. Bye now.